Throughout history, there have been moments so devastating that they changed the course of humanity forever. Moments that were so destructive, so unimaginable, that they seemed almost impossible to survive. In August of 1945, the world witnessed one of those moments, not once, but twice. Two atomic bombs were dropped on Japan within just a few days, causing destruction on a scale the world had never seen before. Entire cities were reduced to ruins. Hundreds of thousands of lives were lost. And yet, against all odds, one man managed to survive both bombings. His name was Tsutomu Yamaguchi, and his story remains one of the most unbelievable survival stories in human history. To understand what he went through, we have to go back to the final days of World War II. In the summer of 1945, Japan was on the brink of defeat. The war had dragged on for years, and the country was already suffering from heavy bombing and resource shortages. But what was about to happen would change everything. On August 6, 1945, the United States dropped the first atomic bomb on the city of Hiroshima. At exactly 8:15 in the morning, the bomb exploded above the city with a force unlike anything ever seen before. A blinding flash lit up the sky. Within seconds, a massive fireball consumed everything beneath it. Buildings were vaporized, streets disappeared, and tens of thousands of people were killed almost instantly. At that very moment, Tsutomu Yamaguchi was in Hiroshima on a business trip. He had been working as an engineer and was preparing to return home the following day. But as he walked through the city that morning, everything changed. He saw a sudden flash in the sky. Instinctively, he threw himself to the ground. A powerful shockwave followed, knocking him unconscious. When he woke up, the city around him was unrecognizable. The landscape had been completely destroyed. Fires burned across the horizon, and survivors wandered through the ruins, injured and disoriented. Yamaguchi himself had suffered severe burns and injuries. Despite this, he managed to find shelter and survived the immediate aftermath. Over the next day, he made an incredible decision. Instead of staying in the devastated city, he would return home. His home was in the city of Nagasaki. On August 8th, just 2 days after the bombing, Yamaguchi arrived back in Nagasaki. He was injured, exhausted, and recovering from the trauma he had just experienced. The following morning, he went to his workplace to report what had happened. He tried to explain the destruction he had witnessed in Hiroshima, but many of his co-workers found his story difficult to believe. A single bomb destroying an entire city? It sounded impossible. But as Yamaguchi described the blinding flash and the massive explosion, something unexpected happened. At 11:02 a.m. on August 9th, 1945, history repeated itself. Another atomic bomb was dropped. This time, it was over Nagasaki. Once again, a blinding flash filled the sky. And once again, Yamaguchi found himself at the center of the unimaginable destruction. The explosion tore through the city, leveling buildings and sending shockwaves across the landscape. Miraculously, Yamaguchi survived. For the second time. Despite being injured just days earlier, he managed to escape the immediate blast and avoid fatal harm. Around him, the city was once again reduced to chaos. Fires spread, buildings collapsed, and thousands of lives were lost in an instant. Surviving one atomic bombing would already be considered nearly impossible. Surviving two seemed almost beyond belief. But Yamaguchi's ordeal was far from over. In the days that followed, he had to endure the effects of radiation exposure, injuries, and the psychological trauma of what he had witnessed. Like many survivors, he experienced long-term health issues caused by radiation. Yet somehow, he continued to live. Years passed, the war came to an end, and Japan began the long process of rebuilding. For decades, Yamaguchi lived a relatively quiet life, but his story remained largely unknown to the world. It wasn't until much later that his experience gained wider recognition. In fact, for many years, he was not officially acknowledged as a survivor of both bombings. Eventually, the Japanese government formally recognized him as a double survivor, a person who had experienced both atomic attacks and lived to tell the story. Out of all the people present in both cities at the time, Only a very small number are believed to have survived both events. But Yamaguchi's story stands out because of how clearly documented his experience became. He later spoke publicly about his experiences, sharing the horrors he had witnessed and the impact it had on his life. Despite everything he went through, he became an advocate for peace. He used his story to speak out against nuclear weapons and the devastating consequences they bring. No one should ever have to experience what he did. The atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki remain among the most tragic events in human history. They marked the only time nuclear weapons have been used in war, and their impact is still felt to this day. Tsutomu Yamaguchi's survival is not just a story of luck. It is a reminder of human resilience in the face of unimaginable destruction, a story that seems almost impossible, yet is completely real. Because sometimes history is not just defined by the events that shape the world, but by the individuals who somehow survive them. And against all odds, Tsutomu Yamaguchi lived to tell one of the most extraordinary survival stories ever recorded.